Welcome. This is a Historic Insight presentation. My name is Gerald Shanklepore. This is Ted Misano. We are going to do a presentation on the Shroud of Turin. Today's date is July the 3rd, 2012. Basically, the Shroud of Turin is a relic it's the burial cloth of Jesus Christ. It has what's reputed to be blood and an image of Christ. And we've done some research and read the research, and it appears that this is authentic from what we've seen. And we want to discuss with you what we've seen, what we've learned from the different research about this. The cloth basically was found by Mary Magdalene when she realized that the stone had been turned and moved, and called Peter, and Peter entered and retrieved the shroud. In addition, there's a face cloth. Ted, the name of that cloth is?
The Siderium, I believe.
Okay, and that's in Oviedo, Spain. It's located, and it has blood samples on it.
Yeah.
The cloth was then somehow relocated to Turkey. Is that correct, Ted?
You're talking about the shroud.
The shroud, excuse me. The shroud was relocated to Turkey.
Yeah, we have a history of it here in this booklet that was put out in 2000 AD when they took the shroud out for viewing, which comes from Turin in Italy. It's a very good publication, and it has the whole history of the shroud right here, and I'm looking at it. Of course, we start, and has a map, in the Holy Land in Jerusalem in AD 33. It was in Jerusalem. That was the approximate time of the death, resurrection of Jesus Christ. From Jerusalem, it went, according to tradition, they have Constantinople, but there's a tradition where it was in Edessa, which is now Turkey, where a Christian ruler looked over it. Eventually, it went to Constantinople. They have the year 1092 for that, and it was under the auspices of the Byzantine or Eastern Roman emperors in Constantinople. Now, from Constantinople, there was a sack in 1204 there by Western, what they called them, Frankish Crusaders. A French crusader apparently removed the relic and brought it to Chambéry in France, which is in the province, it was a duchy at that time, of Savoy, which was the capital of the House of Savoy, which became the royal family of Italy. It stayed there until the House of Savoy, the royal family, or at that time it was a ducal family, removed the shroud to Piedmont, the province of Piedmont, the city of Turin, or Torino, in northern Italy, which had become their capital. Since that time, it's been in Turin. It's why it is called the Shroud of Turin. And it's in the Cathedral of Turin, and that's where it resides.
Okay. It's located now in Italy, in Turin.
Yes.
And there's been a lot of research done on this relic. And some of the research is pretty amazing. And I'm just going to go through the bullet points with you, and I'd like you to comment on, after I give all the bullet points, comment on the ones that you think are relevant.
Okay.
First is they've done some digital imaging, and they've discovered that, well, actually this was done, the first image was back in the late 1800s by Secondo Pia. This is when they first developed the camera technology, and once they had the negative, he realized that the image itself was a negative, and it became much more clearer, and it was the image that we see today. Now they've done they did images more recently, and they discovered that this on a two-dimensional image has got three-dimensional encoding on it, meaning that they can make a three-dimensional or holographic image from this image, and they cannot do that with a normal photograph. So right there, that's something very unusual and extraordinary. Another thing they've discovered is the front and the back. There is a front and a back. They didn't know that because the back was covered with a backing cloth, and they took that off, and they discovered that they had the rear image of the body. They discovered that the red that they thought was paint was real human blood. They did DNA testing on it.
Yeah.
It was the blood of a male. The DNA testing, they say, is inconclusive for further information.
Yeah.
However, they still have the blood, and the Vatican is no longer giving it up to different laboratories for tests. The Vatican archivist has found that there's Aramaic, Hebrew words on the image. One says the Lamb, one is a death certificate. There is a lot of scientific proof that this image is beyond our comprehension of science even today, much more so than it came back from when it was first produced. You had mentioned pollen.
Yes.
It's only indigenous to the area of Jerusalem.
Yes.
And plants actually found, pictures of plants were found on that image. Same thing goes with those.
Yeah.
18 or 20 plants. Could you just discuss that a little bit, Ted?
Well, we're talking about the authenticity of the relic or of the shroud in terms of the image and of the cloth itself. What you're talking about or alluding to is the cloth itself. They've done studies in recent years of the weave of the cloth, and that weave, they've traced it, historians, to other sources and what they have in the Holy Land. That type of weave was only used at that time in Palestine, which was where Judea was, so Holy Land, Israel, ancient Israel. Also, the pollen and the plants that came into the fabric of the shrine of the shroud, were also indigenous to the Holy Land, that same area at that time. So that leads me to the conclusion, to my belief based on that this cloth, this shroud, did indeed originate in what we call the Holy Land, Palestine, at the time of the life and death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. That's what we're talking about.